Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week for TimeXtender Tuesdays. I will be your host this week. I am Christopher Daniels, and this week we'll be discussing dynamic data masking in the modern data warehouse. So, dynamic data masking itself actually goes in and masks sensitive data from unauthorized users. This actually works without having to go in and change the data at the source, but actually adds in a postscript that is acting kind of similar to a transformation in the modern data warehouse. This is very easy to implement, very easy to use, and it allows you to mask that data from unauthorized users like I discussed before. So there are 4 different types of dynamic data masking. However, today we'll be working with 3. The 3 different types we'll be working with today are default data masking, which is a full masking of according to the data type. And you can see an example right here. The phone number itself was masked, and it shows up with XXX all the way through. Next is the email dynamic data masking, and that works with actually hiding the some of the email characters as well as the domain name. As you can see here, my TimeXtender email has been masked down below. And then lastly is random dynamic data masking. That actually is probably one of the best for transformation work because it allows your analysts to still look at data and write transformations and then double check to verify that the calculations are running correctly. And as you can see, it just randomizes numbers based upon whatever your constraints you input. So for today's use case, we'll be working with the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company, and we'll be working with Nick, the IT guy. So Nick actually works for Dunder Mifflin, and he is an IT guy, and he needs to test data quality throughout the business. However, a lot of the information that he'll be working with is sensitive, and it should not be unmasked. We do not want to change the data at the source, as that will just be a data encryption. However, we do want to allow him to be able to work with the data. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement dynamic data masking. Down below, you can see an example of a partial dynamic data mask with the account number here and then a mask account number to the right. So here are the steps for dynamic data masking. They are to first create the script actions for dynamic data masking. Next is creating a custom SQL step. Next is assigning that custom SQL step as a postscript to the respective tables. And then lastly, you are to deploy and execute the project. And if there were no changes made in your modern data warehouse or your DSA, wherever you are applying dynamic data masking, please make sure to turn off differential deployment so that it can rewrite the script for your data warehouse. Great. So let's jump into it. So here is my TimeXtender project. We have a modern data warehouse, my tables, database schemas, security scripts, and we're going to want to first begin by creating a custom step under script actions. So we're going to go in and we're going to name this default, since this is a default dynamic data mask step. And we're going to type in alter table, and we want to drag in credit card, and we're going to next type in alter column, and we want to drag in card number. And the data type is in varchar 25, and then we're going to mask with function equaling default. And that looks good to go, so we can go ahead and click OK. So we're going to also implement two other data types. We're going to also implement the email address, dynamic data mask, and how that will look will be the same steps: alter table, drag in email, alter column, drag in email address again, and we're going to rename this to M address. Actually, let's go with, don't forget our bracket, M address. And click OK. And then we're going to do in varchar 50 masked with function equaling email. Okay. And then lastly, we would like to do a random. So let's go with purchase transactions. Add custom step, random, medium, and the steps will follow as follows. Alter table, drag in purchase transactions, alter column, and we will do, let's do order quantity, so that's a random integer, masked with, oh, can't forget the data type, masked with function. So there will be a difference on this one. We are going to actually have to input parameters for what we want to mask it with. So I'm going to do 1 and 100 as my parameters. Okay. And that looks good to go. Great. So now that we have all of our dynamic data mask set up, the next step is actually applying these as a postscript to our respective tables. So let's begin with our default. We're going to open our credit card table, and we're going to go to advanced settings and set pre and postscripts. Right here, we're going to want to actually deploy at the table structure as a post step. So we'll apply that, and we'll click OK. And we'll do the same for email address and transactions. Email and purchase transactions. Okay, great. So now the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to actually deploy and execute my modern data warehouse. And since I haven't made any changes recently to it, I'm going to go ahead and turn off differential deployment so that it can rewrite the script for my modern data warehouse. And we're going to say implements dynamic data masking for our version node. And we'll click save. And now we can go ahead and wait as these tasks are completed. One thing to note, I always love discussing the power of TimeXtender, how quickly it's able to execute. I have a total of 106 tasks, and yet I'm able to really just go in and trust that TimeXtender will complete all of it, and honestly for me, in less than a minute. And that is just an amazing feature. All right, doing a save, and we're doing some ODX transfers. Great, and we have our multiple threads going. It should be finishing up any second now. Okay. Great, and we're good to go. Now we will go ahead and begin testing. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to actually go in and go to the query tool. So like we had discussed in the use case, we're trying to hide this from Nick, the IT guy. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to test what would happen if he were logged in. So we can just go ahead and create a user, and let's name him Nick underscore the underscore IT guy. And we're going to create him without a login. Next step is we're going to grant select permission to, and we'll just copy and paste this bad boy. No need to rewrite all of that. Nick the IT guy. Forgot the N. No worries. And then lastly, we're going to execute as user equaling, and let me just go ahead and put that in, Nick the IT guy. So if everything works properly, and let's just go ahead and do this real quick. This is how it would normally look. Okay, the card number is there. But if everything works properly, these should be X's now. And there you have it. It works properly. And we can go ahead and take a look at email address as well. Or let's look at purchase transactions or email address. That's fine. We can just go in and we can just execute as user, Nick the IT guy. And the email address has been masked perfectly. So I wanted to thank you again for joining me on this week's TimeXtender Tuesdays video. I hope this really helps you out a lot. And thank you for joining me. Please feel free to subscribe and like this post. Thank you.